I woke up to over 100 missed calls. That alone would have freaked anyone out. But what stopped my heart cold was the name lighting up my screen. Ethan, my best friend. He died 6 months ago, buried in a closed casket. I stood at his funeral, gave a eulogy, held his mother as she cried. His phone? It was buried with him. So how was I getting calls? From the grave? The last voicemail came in at 3:02 a.m. My hands trembled as I hit play. Don't trust them. It was never an accident. If you get this, the call cut off. The timestamp? The night he disappeared. I played it again, turning up the volume. Static. Breathing. Then, something else. A whisper. Distorted. Chilling. You were supposed to forget. I drove straight to Ethan's old apartment. The building was still boarded up. His family never cleared it out. It was like a time capsule. I found his laptop, still plugged in, the screen frozen on his last search. How to fake your own death. My blood turned to ice. Was Ethan hiding from someone? From something? In a folder labeled, "Do not open," I found maps, emails, photos, and a single text file with my name on it. It said, "If you found this, it means they didn't get to you yet. Check your arm." I rolled up my sleeve, and there it was, a scar, faint but clean. Beneath it, tiny raised bumps, like something had been implanted. I grabbed a flashlight, angled it under my skin. Something was moving inside me. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. Stop digging. I looked out the window. There it was. A black SUV. Engine running. Headlights off. Watching me. I bolted. Jumped in my car. Tires screeched. Heart pounding. My phone rang again. I almost didn't answer, but I did. This time, Ethan's voice was calm. "They're coming. If you want the truth, you need to find me first." Find him? He was dead. Wasn't he? Headlights filled my rearview mirror. No license plate. No lights. I turned onto a side road. Killed my headlights. Sped up. Then the phone rang again. Another unknown number. But this time, I recognized the voice. My voice. Turn left. Now. I nearly crashed. I don't leave voicemails to myself. I don't talk to myself. So how was I warning myself? I followed the voice's directions. Ended up at an abandoned gas station. The SUV? Gone. But someone else was waiting. A woman. Late 40s. Sharp eyes. Holding an envelope. She said one sentence. "You were supposed to forget." Inside the envelope, medical records. My name. My scans. Notes redacted. And one phrase scribbled in the margin. Memory reset. Attempt 3. The woman looked at me. "Ethan tried to warn you, but they wiped you. Over and over. Now it's failing. That's why you're remembering pieces." I backed up. Who are they? People who don't want you to remember who you really are. She pointed to my arm. "Check it again." I lifted my sleeve. Same scar. Same bumps. She handed me a scalpel. "If you want the truth, you need to cut it out." My hands shook. I pressed the blade to my skin. Cut deep. It wasn't just scar tissue. Something slid out. Metallic. Tiny black chip. She crushed it under her boot. "Now they can't track you, but they'll know you're awake." Couldn't breathe. She handed me a plane ticket. Destination. Berlin. I've never been to Berlin in my life. Or have I? It's where you and Ethan were. Before the first reset. Before they erased me. And just like that, she vanished, leaving me alone, with more questions than answers. Was Ethan really dead? Was my entire life a lie? And most of all, if my memories aren't real, who the hell am I really? The flight to Berlin was quiet. Too quiet. No one sat beside me. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just stared out the window, trying to remember something. Anything. That would prove I'd never been to Berlin before. But my brain kept stuttering, like a scratched CD skipping in loops. When I landed, the air felt heavier. Familiar, somehow. I checked the ticket again. A name scribbled on the back. Hotel Eisenblick. Room 317. Ask for Julian. I caught a cab and gave the driver the name. He didn't ask questions. But when we pulled up to the hotel, my blood ran cold, because I'd seen this building before. In a dream. No, not a dream. A memory. The front desk clerk greeted me by name. "Welcome back, Mr. Keller." I froze. Think you've got me confused." He smiled. "Room 317. Top floor. Elevators to the left. No key. No ID. Just recognition." The hallway smelled of disinfectant and old secrets. I hesitated outside the room, then knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Still nothing. But as I turned to leave, the door creaked open. Standing there was a man, late 30s, thin, pale, one green eye, one gray. He stared at me for a moment, then said, "They didn't wipe you clean this time." His name was Julian, and according to him, we were old friends, sort of. He poured 2 glasses of water. I noticed his hands trembled slightly. "You and Ethan, you were part of a test group. Memory manipulation, neural encoding. You signed up willingly. But after the first reset, Ethan changed. He tried to escape. You helped him." I shook my head. "No, that can't be. I'd remember." Julian looked at me. "That's the point. You're not supposed to." He pulled out an old tablet, powered it on, typed in a code, then showed me a video. It was surveillance footage. 2 men running through a hallway. One of them clearly Ethan. The other, me. Same face, same scar, same voice yelling, "They're inside your head. We need to get to the elevator." The footage glitched, froze. "You made it out," Julian said. "But they caught Ethan, reprogrammed your memories, implanted new ones, dropped you back into your old life like nothing happened." I sat in silence, because somewhere deep down I already knew he was right. Julian leaned forward. "This is bigger than you. You were part of a sequence called the Recollection Project. They've done this dozens of times. But you," he hesitated, "you're different." Before I could ask what he meant, the power cut out. Lights gone. Tablet dead. Elevator down the hall dinged. We looked at each other. Julian stood quickly. "They found us." He shoved a flash drive into my hand. "Get out. Take this to Vienna. There's a man there, Dr. Clemens. He built the original implant tech. If anyone can help you put the pieces back together, it's him." "What about you?" I asked. Julian opened a hidden panel in the wall. "I'll buy you time." Then he was gone. I ran. Down a dark stairwell. Out into the Berlin night. Fog rolling in like smoke. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "We warned you." Then another. This one had a photo. A live one. Me. Standing outside the hotel. They were watching. Right now. I jumped into a cab. Paid in cash. Told the driver. Vienna. No stops. The drive took hours. But something in me refused to sleep. Because for the first time, I wanted to remember. Dr. Clemens lived in a remote cabin deep in the Austrian woods. I knocked 3 times. He opened the door, slowly. Thin man. Wrinkled eyes. No expression. He looked me over and said, "It's you." Inside, the cabin looked more like a lab. Monitors. Brain scans. Old photos pinned to corkboards. And a long wall covered in faces. I recognized some. Most I didn't. But in the center, Ethan. Smiling. Unedited. Real. Dr. Clemens sat me down. Hooked me up to wires. "You're fragmented. Like a hard drive with erased files. But pieces remain." He placed the flash drive into a device. Monitors flickered. Code streamed across the screen. Then, an image appeared. Me. Standing in a sterile white room. Facing a mirror. In the reflection, I wasn't alone. Ethan was beside me. Except, it wasn't the Ethan I remembered. He looked different. Older. More aware. And on the mirror, a phrase was written in red. "The first reset was a lie." Suddenly static. The monitor cut out. Dr. Clemens frowned. "That's not supposed to happen." The screen rebooted. This time, just one video loaded. titled Project Nova, Test Subject Number 019. He clicked it. My pulse spiked, because the person on the screen was me, hooked up to machines, tubes, electrodes on my temples, and someone else in the room, face obscured, but speaking. Subject 019 is beginning to resist. Memory inconsistencies are surfacing. Prepare for next reset. The timestamp? 3 days ago. I stood up. They're still doing this? Dr. Clemens nodded. They never stopped. I looked at him. Then how do I stop them? He paused, then opened a drawer, pulled out a thin, sealed envelope. Inside, a photo, grainy, black and white. It was me and Ethan, standing in front of a facility labeled Nova Corp, Mind Research Facility 6. Except this photo was dated 2012, 13 years ago, but I'm only 29, aren't I? Before I could speak, my phone buzzed again. No number, just a message. You're almost there. Then, another photo, this time from inside the cabin. From behind me, I turned, but no one was there. I turned, but the room was empty. No footsteps, no shadow, nothing, except the undeniable truth. Someone had just taken that photo from inside the cabin. My phone buzzed again. A second message followed. You were never supposed to get this far. Dr. Clemens was frozen, staring at the monitors. The lines of code had stopped. Something had triggered a lockdown. They've found us, he muttered. We have maybe 5 minutes. He opened a drawer, pulled out a small hard drive, and slammed it into my palm. This has everything, their files, their research, every experiment under Nova. If you want answers, real ones, take this and go. I didn't ask what he meant by everything, because by now, I already knew. I wasn't just a test subject. I was the key. The back door opened to a snow-covered trail leading into the woods. Dr. Clemens shoved me outside and locked the door behind me. Then, through the glass, I saw him power off the lights and sit back in his chair, waiting. I didn't look back. I ran. Branches slashed my jacket. My lungs burned. But I didn't stop until I reached the end of the trail, where a car waited, just like he said it would. Keys were under the floor mat. Gas tank. Full. Destination. Unknown. But the map in the glove box had a red circle around one location. Nova Facility 6, Bergen, Norway. 12 hours later, I crossed the border into Norway. And as I approached the coordinates, I realized something. I had been here before. Not just once, dozens of times. Flashes of memory hit like lightning bolts. Long white hallways, screaming behind closed doors. A room full of mirrors. A voice whispering, reset again. Try another version. I wasn't losing my mind. I was recovering it. The facility was buried in a mountain pass, camouflaged by rock and snow. Fenced, quiet, abandoned. At least, it looked that way. I broke in through a maintenance tunnel. Inside, it was exactly like I remembered: white walls, humming vents, and that sterile smell of forgotten science. My footsteps echoed as I walked deeper, following signs labeled Memory Lab 3, Subject Quarters, Core Control. Then I heard it, breathing, not mine, coming from around the corner, peaked and froze. It was Ethan. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, eyes half closed, pale, but alive. My throat tightened. Ethan, he blinked slowly, then smiled. Took you long enough. I ran to him. He winced when I touched his shoulder. They tried to reset me again last week, he said. Didn't take. I've been playing dead. I helped him to his feet. You remember everything? I asked. He nodded. Not just me. You too. That's why they're panicking. He motioned to a nearby terminal. Plug in the hard drive. Let's finish this. We accessed the system. Dozens of folders opened. Labeled. Subject 001, terminated. Subject 002, unstable. Subject 019, critical. That was me. Inside my file timelines. Version after version of my life. Rewritten. Erased, reconstructed. Some where I was married. Others where I never met Ethan. One where I died at 16. And all of them ended with one phrase. Reset unsuccessful. Subject showing signs of retention. Ethan clicked on a hidden folder marked Core Protocol. It unlocked a video feed. Live. Dr. Mercer, the director of the Nova program. She stared into the camera like she was looking straight at us. If you're seeing this, it means you've remembered too much. I warned you. She leaned forward. We were never trying to erase you. We were trying to protect you. Protect me? From what? The screen flickered. New footage loaded. Me, but not recent. Older. In a lab coat. Standing beside Mercer. Memory transfer complete, my voice said. We're ready to test permanent identity suppression. Ethan backed up. You worked with them, he whispered. You were one of them. I stared at the screen, mouth dry, because it was true. In one of my former lives, I helped build the tech that was now being used to control me. I wasn't just a subject. I was a creator. And now, I was my own experiment gone wrong. I turned to Ethan. We need to shut it down. All of it. He nodded. We connected the hard drive to the core. Started the purge sequence. File after file disappeared. Logs, protocols, subject lists all wiped. The system began to overheat. Lights flashed. Alarms screamed. But we didn't stop. Finally, with one keystroke, it was done. Nova's central system had been destroyed. We ran. As the facility began to collapse behind us. We made it out just before sunrise. Ethan collapsed in the snow, laughing. We did it. I looked up at the mountain, smoke curling into the sky. Did we? Back in town, we found a motel. Rested. Tried to process everything. But that night, I had a dream. Or maybe a memory. I was in the lab again, watching a child through a glass wall. A little boy. He looked up at me. Is it over yet? He asked. I shook my head. Not yet. We have to try again. I woke up gasping. Checked my phone. No service. But one message blinked on the lock screen. No number. Just one line. You shut down one facility. But there are 6 more. I thought I was a victim. I thought I was a friend. But now, I know the truth. I was the architect of my own nightmare. And if I ever want to make it right, I have to bring them all down. Like the video to support these stories. Comment your theory. What was Project Nova really for? Subscribe to Dark Case File, where true storytelling meets suspense, mystery, and mind-bending twists.